Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, beautiful souls, to my channel, my special series as I interview local healers or specifically healers that I've worked with. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not already and hit the red bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I post new content. I'm doing these local interviews twice a week on my YouTube channel here, creating a digital index of what kind of healers we have here in the community, what kind of modalities they have, what their offerings are. And I feel that that is so great to have like this index, right? To have that offering. And then you could have fun using your intuition, your internal guide to choose a specific one that you may want to work with or one that sparks your curiosity. And remember to give this video a thumbs up because it really helps my algorithm on YouTube showing that this kind of information is important to people and us, all of us, are curious to stuff like this, because the more you'll do that, you'll actually get more feed in your YouTube to other like healers. You'll see how that totally changes the feed on your YouTube channel too. So if healing is something that you want to start embracing in your life, I highly suggest that you put a thumbs up on this video because you'll get that seed of consciousness and that flow of consciousness in your YouTube algorithm as well, which is super cool. I think that's like spirit working through us through these social media platforms in a way as well, right? That's how spirit works. And for those that are new, welcome. My name is Marianne Lee. I'm a yoga instructor, embodiment doula, cosmetologist, YouTube content creator, and a divine being and divine goddess, as all of you are as well. I'm here to create a space for all my local special healers, brothers and sisters, to share their modalities, to share what their offerings are in this community. And most importantly, to feel that community that we have here. We do have a very enriched, vibrant surplus of healers here in this beautiful town in Pueblo, Colorado, here in Southern Colorado. So yeah, we'll take it away. We have Miss Vanessa here. Miss Vanessa, oh my gosh, has the coolest label I've ever came into contact thus far. So she calls herself a death doula, and she's going to go more into what her services are behind that. And I also would really love to hear I'm so curious, Vanessa, to how you got into this line of work as well. I know some of it because I've known you and we've got to talk a few times, a few conversations. And it's so amazing that you're offering this kind of space holding behind this transition for people in their life and offering that integration for people. So yes, welcome, Miss Vanessa Cruz.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. Wow. So I am, yes, as Marianne said, a death doula. I came into this work because I'm also a nurse, and I have worked in death care, so hospice, end of life work. And when I was a nurse and working in that space, I loved it. And, you know, when I was in nursing school, it's something you learn about, but you don't take an internship, or you don't do like clinical work in that space. You just kind of learn about it as you go. So when I started with hospice and I was in that space and I was doing like 12 hours in the home with people that were actively dying, I learned so much about how people die, that grieving process, and being able to support not only the dying person, but their family, and how important that was, and how sacred a time that is, and how honored and blessed that I was to be able to share that space with those people. It was just amazing because it's such a personal transition, and it's beautiful. It can really be beautiful. So that's something that I knew I would always come back to. I always knew end of life was going to be part of me in some way.
So
and
cool.
Being a death doula, I like that because it's not so much the clinical nursing aspect of it, because when you do hospice, you know, like I said, I was 12 hours in the home, but that's only a short period of time. Usually it's a couple visits a week, and I wanted to do more. So, but through being a doula, I'm able to support the family more. I'm able to be there more. I'm not limited to a schedule. I get to to schedule it myself.
Mm,
And as part of that, I get to offer additional services. So that's really how I got into it.
so
And
neat.
yeah, um, the services that I offer now is a variety of things surrounding death. So, number one is death planning. People, well, I should say conversations about death, first of all, because a lot of people are afraid to talk about it. They're
Mhm.
not
So,
comfortable. It can be a little bit triggering. People think that if you talk about death, it's going to happen. And
yeah,
so encouraging that conversation,
there's a
getting
stigma.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, getting people to just start talking about it, because then when you do that, you can start to plan.
And
And
it's a part of life, getting them to be like become almost a healthy sense of like sensitizing the nervous system to it, right? Instead of that fight or flight kind of freeze
right.
response. Yeah.
And if you're really in touch with death, then you can live so much more. You can live your life so much more, because you it death is inevitable. It's going
Yeah.
to happen.
Right. It's a
And a lot of
natural
us have been
process.
trained, or society is like, let's push it away, let's pretend it's not there, keep it at arm's length or more. But that really is a part of life. And if we really embrace that, we have those conversations, if we plan for that, our life
Mm.
is that much more enriched.
Yes, creating that space.
Yeah.
It's creating that space to have that, to implement that healthy relationship with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with the planning part, it's important to have those conversations so that your family members know what your wishes are. Because a lot of times people at the end haven't had that conversation, and then families are left wondering, what would my loved one really want? What's the desire there? What do we want for our family? So if you have those conversations, that makes that easier. You have
Mm.
that for yourself, you have that with, your loved ones. I know I have had that conversation with my parents, and, I really want to know what they want, to honor that. And what I have found when I'm working in the death space is those that have a plan, it's a lot easier for them to make that transition. Whereas if they're worried
Mm.
about, what's going to happen with their family, they'll kind
Mhm.
of struggle a little bit.
So
And
much
then the family
resistance, huh?
struggles too. Yeah.
A lot
And
more
they're,
turbulence they experience.
yes,
Yeah, that totally makes sense with like
yes,
just the energy. So getting
the
that
energy.
flow, right? Getting that building, offering this to create the spaciousness. And then you have that harmony and flow through it versus it abrupt and it being turbulent. That totally makes sense. And
Exactly.
the nervous system is already going through a lot because someone is to go to the other side now, right? So
Right.
why overstimulate it? Why make it harder? Why add to your suffering, as my teacher says?
Exactly. And it's not just the individual suffering, it's the family suffering, because now
Yeah.
it's too late to have those conversations, or too late to say what you wish
Wow.
you would have said. When you can still say that in some of that space, but
Right.
it's not as meaningful as if you had had the conversation.
That's totally
So,
awesome.
yeah, that energy is really important. And then on top of that, what I like to advocate for is home funerals, because that's something that we've really been
Uh,
removed from.
yeah.
And that's how it was. It was
Yeah.
always the family that was doing the death care.
Like my girl and my girl, remember her dad had those home funerals at his
Yes.
home?
Yes.
Uh,
And home funerals are legal across the United States.
wow.
Everybody used to do this. You care for your loved one at home. You do the death care, you prep them. And it's a ceremonial rituous thing that you get to
Mm.
do for your loved one. You get to wash their body, you get to prepare them, you can hold vigil there in the house, you can have them in your home up to 3 days, so
Wow.
that people can really work through that grieving process. Because when somebody dies, away from the home, it may be in a facility or something,
Yeah.
you get to spend a little bit of time with them after death, and then they take them away, and you don't
Oh,
see them again until the funeral, and then they're gone. And that
yeah.
really interrupts the grieving process.
I could see that because it's deassociating. Like it makes it so easy for the psyche to deassociate,
Yeah.
you know? And then that doesn't create a healthy grief
Right.
process.
And if you lose some of that, or if there was any kind of trauma around it on top of that, that can create trauma and grief. And, not being able to grieve properly, then you're holding on to that for an extended period of time. Whereas if you have somebody in the home and you can come up to them and you can kiss them and you can touch them and you can caress them, after about 3 days, the mind and the body starts to understand. You
Yeah.
start to see those changes, you start to understand, you start to accept, because there's the
Right.
5 stages of grief that you go through.
And
And
that's what you really help is you help with that integration too, right, Vanessa? Because it's
right,
an
right,
integration that they're gonna go through.
right. And being able to walk them through those steps, because there's 5 steps and they go interchangeably and they come back. So helping families
And
do
it's
that.
very
And
real. It's very real. I just have to say that because I went through my first grief, like, as an adult, 3 years ago, and it's so on point, the 5 stages and how they come and go, and how they could revisit at certain times. So just getting familiar with it,
yeah,
like, you feel so much safer when you could orientate somewhat cognitively around it,
right,
and then you could allow the body and the spirit to do what it needs to do as
right.
far as grieving.
And that those 5 stages come in even before death. If somebody knows that they have a terminal diagnosis, they go through those stages of grief themselves, because they're, you know, progressing in a way that may not be comfortable. They may have a lot of pain, and it's also they're losing a lot of things with their debilitation and their suffering. So,
Wow.
you know, it's stages all through that process. So helping families do that, being comfortable with that, educating them on how to care for the body, keep it in home, what paperwork and requirements are needed, and for you to bring, because you can bring them home too, even if they pass in a facility of some sort, if they've been in an
Okay.
accident, after an autopsy of something like that, you can still can bring people home. So
Wow.
encouraging that, educating on that. And the other thing about that is cost. You're decreasing a lot of cost, because funerals are expensive.
Yeah.
And when you can do a lot of it yourself, because not a lot of people, especially if something happens quickly and you're unexpected, that's a huge expense that has to come up.
Right.
You have to come up with the money for. So educating on that.
So much
And
more
then
connection, so much more of connected way to part way,
it's
to part
beautiful.
away, to
It's
part of
beautiful.
life.
And you can go online, you can see videos on YouTube of people that have cared for their loved one home funerals, and they even take them to the burial ground if that's what they want to do. They'll even take them to the crematorium. They have where it may not be a casket, but they have boxes or shrouds that people can wear, and they'll decorate those and make it beautiful. I mean, it's such a
Wow.
personal space that you get to make
Personalized.
your own.
Yeah.
Right, instead of just having them removed and then just showing up and looking at them in a box. And then that's okay too, but
Yeah.
it really does remove a lot of that.
Yeah, this
Um,
is an option, and this is more like when you're speaking, like, I could hear more like ancestral lineage coming through too.
right,
What was done before we had Tom, Dick, and Harry involved, and we're paying third party, companies
right.
to do this kind of stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, so I'm getting
yes.
more back to the ancestral rituals.
Right. Because
Yeah.
when you're preparing them, you're saying your prayers, you're singing your songs, you're anointing them with oils if that's something that you do. You get to follow your cultural belief if you have
Yeah.
one. And like I said, it's just such a personal space. And then once that's finished, you're ready to let them go. I guide people on, you know, um, deposition of the body. There's the traditional way, and then there's alternatives. People are looking for eco-friendly type depositions of body
Yeah.
now,
Mhm.
alternatives
Yeah.
to just burial or cremation. So
Yeah.
I will help guide in that as well. Things like green burial, um, what they call water cremation. And it's basically just washing the body, and you come out with um, ashes. It looks just like ashes, but it's better for the environment. And you can actually take the
Wow.
water if you want to.
Wow. So
In
knowing those
Colorado,
options, just knowing that, because I didn't know that they offer different other than your traditional that you hear, you know?
Yeah. And it takes a little bit because not everywhere, does green burial. It's not like you could just go to the ceremony or the cemetery and say, I want to do a green burial. You have to find where it's available in your area. And so I am part of a group that I get updates on new green burials and across the United States. So I can help people anywhere in the United States with their state laws on and what is required for all of that. We now in Colorado just recently got the ability to compost a body. So that
Wow.
takes about 6 months, and they do it up north in Denver, Boulder area. So there's a lot of different
Oh,
options. Way up north in Fort Collins, there's actually where you can do an open burn. So a lot of cultural beliefs, want an open burn or ways to allow spirit to leave. So, there's a
wow.
lot of options out there, and people don't realize that even if this was something culturally that they wanted to do, they may not have access to that or the knowledge. So I help do that. And so what I do is I just kind of meet with people if they're interested. They can contact me, and I go through what options they want. We kind of build a package, what I can help them with, how
Nice.
I can support them.
Yeah.
And I
You
also
bring in all
do
the structure, huh, sister? You
right.
bring in a lot of
So I
structure.
don't have so they don't have to worry about it.
Right.
If it's something that's study, if it's something they want to plan for, that's great too, because we can plan. They know what they want, their family knows what they want. We get to do legacy work. What do you want to leave behind? Are there stories? Do you want to record things? Do you want to write
Oh,
um, you know, notes to people, messages, letters, create photo I've had people create collages of photos of all their family members and have stories behind those. So you get to do a lot of that stuff when you want to prepare ahead of time.
yeah. Yeah. Because then
Yeah.
you have all the time.
Right. You have time.
You
And
have
it's
time
important to
with
have those
them.
conversations even as young people because
Mhm.
you never know.
Yeah,
And
that's so
and
true. My daughter like always says like, "Mom, just play Drake at my funeral if I die before you." I'm like, "Dang, this is something that I probably should talk about. Like, how
yeah,
would she want me to part ways with her if she was to?"
yeah.
And
What
then
would you
I'm
want
glad
her
she
to
told me that
do?
because I will literally play Drake.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a sad thing. There's so many
Yeah,
people that have a celebration of life, especially if they have a terminal illness and they know it's coming. They get
yeah,
to prepare and have like a celebration. It doesn't
celebration.
have to be at the end. You can make this,
Yes.
a positive, especially if everybody is on board. And then the last thing I do help people with is medical aid and dying. So if there comes to a lot of people with a terminal illness don't want to suffer out to
Yeah.
death.
Are they
They
allowing that here in Colorado now?
they do allow it here in Colorado. We're very fortunate. There's only 11 states that allow
Wow.
medical aid in dying or death with dignity, and we're one of those. So I've actually had nurses contact me from other states and ask me to assist them in getting clients or patients here to Colorado, so then they have that option because it is a process.
Wow. We're very
Um,
fortunate.
yeah, so that's something that I also help people with, coordinate that. It's something that is good to have in place ahead of time because there is a 15-day waiting period from the time that you say, I really want to have this option. You have to wait 15 days and you have to ask again. And there's a specific process with the medications that are used. So it's not something that you want to wait to the last minute. But again, all about education and options.
That's so nice. And all Miss Vanessa's information will be down in the description box of this video, her email and everything for everyone that wants
Thank
to go
you.
ahead and take this opportunity to work with her. So I highly suggest that you do, especially if you're in a circumstance, to start, just why not get healthy about it? Why not have fun with it? Right? It's
Yeah,
an opportunity and a space that you could really just get creative.
right.
Anytime we're being creative, it's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just real quickly, I have an offering coming up on the 17th.
Okay.
It's similar to what we call a death cafe. It's just getting together a group of people and talking about death,
Oh yeah. Is
encouraging
that
death
over at
positivity.
is that
No,
at on the
I'm
holiday?
doing this.
Oh,
independently on
where at, sister?
it'll be on Zoom. It'll be a virtual option.
Sweet.
So anybody can join. I will, if you, Marianne will post my website and you can go
Yeah.
there to the events
Yes,
option on my
definitely.
page and get tickets there. And something we do virtually, and again, just talking about it, death positivity, encouragement. The more you talk about it,
The less,
the
yes,
easier it
the less
is.
stigmatized it is. I
Yeah,
agree. Oh, so just orientating conversation, like how important that is.
yeah.
They're holding space for these beautiful souls to come in there and start to feel that in their beings. Oh,
People are afraid to talk about it, and then when they get a space to do it, they don't realize they have so much to say.
yeah. Wow. Path of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. How beautiful that is, sister. Ah, I
Thank
knew
you.
when I met you and you told me your title, I was just like, wow, that's radical. You know, that like it activated me and awakened me too. And yeah, I definitely know how more people than not, have that negative connotation behind death, negative association that we have behind it when it's really such a beautiful transition. Yeah.
It really is. It can
Mhm.
be.
It can
As
be.
like, if and it, there are people that have had a negative experience with death, and
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
kind of scary. So it's a way to reframe that
Yeah.
and learn that there are options,
Yes.
ways
When we
to do
have
it.
choice, we claim
We have a
agency.
choice. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
agency is so important to honor our sovereignty,
Yes.
Like, and
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what's so important here, honoring
Yes.
each other and claiming that for yourself, is an awakening. There's an activation within that I
Yeah.
can just feel. And that's what I felt when I met you that day at the
Uh-huh.
hot springs. Anything else you'd like to implement, sister?
Um, no, I just really appreciate you doing this and letting us be introduced to the community. I mean, a lot of us know each other, but it's great to be able to meet and see other people that you've had on your channel. It's just so inspiring, and knowing that we have a strong community of healers
Yes.
and supporters that also support each other. And I really
Yes.
appreciate that
Not
you do that.
competitive. Uh-huh.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just open heart and here to serve. People
Yeah.
need this in their lives. People need love. People need support. And our community is one that really can benefit from having the knowledge that we're actually here. So thank you for doing
You're
this.
welcome. Thank you for being such a pioneer and taking the step to be so, to be so different, to go back to like ancient ancestor roots, It's familiar. Like this is like when everything you spoke of, like it's familiar. It's
Yeah,
like,
we
yeah.
know how to do it.
Uh-huh.
We just, need a little bit support sometimes, or somebody
Yeah.
to turn to when we have a question on how can I do this. But we
Yes.
know what to do.
That's
And
so beautiful. And you
yeah,
offering just that space holding behind something like this. Because it doesn't have to be so fast either. There
no,
could be a slowness, there could
no,
be grace
right.
involved. Mhm,
And
mhm.
really giving the family opportunity to just be there with their loved one and let me take on some of the hard stuff and the extra work.
Yes, creating and allowing that alleviation for them, right?
Yeah.
How beautiful. How often do you do the Zoom, deaf
Well,
community,
this is actually
meeting?
going to be my first one virtually now, but I'm looking to see. I've had such a good response so far that I'm looking to at least do it once a month, if
Yeah,
not twice a month, because the
um,
more people talk about it, um, the more they're interested, or the fact that they're even given a space to do it. So
oh,
more
mhm.
will be coming, and I'll always post those on my website.
Okay, great. So everyone, please go check on Miss Vanessa's website. And do you have social media, Miss Vanessa, too? Or
I do right now, just me, Vanessa Cruz, but I'll be starting. I'm going to be starting a independent social media for my work. So my website's theawakenedbody.com or .org, sorry,
.org.
theawakenedbody.org.
Okay. That'll be down in
And
the description of this video too. We'll create
yeah,
that live
and then
for everybody.
I'll eventually onboard some social media to that.
Yes. Oh, how amazing, sister, to have you showing up in this way in our community, in the
Thank you.
world.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. Well, everybody, thank you so much. And again, if you want to connect with Miss Vanessa, check down in the description box of this video. All her links will be down there, as well as mine. Give this video a thumbs up. And we hope to see you next time. All right. Thank you, Miss
Thank
Vanessa.
you. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.